So I've been riding the Yamaha MT-09 now for a couple of weeks and I've been really getting to know the bike. And spoiler alert, I absolutely love it. In this video, I'm going to give you the lowdown on all the lessons I've learned on the bike since I've had it. All the sorts of things that you wouldn't necessarily learn if you just took the bike for a 1 hour test drive. So in this video I'm going to show you what the MT-09 is like to ride in different sorts of conditions on different types of roads. I've ridden this on motorways, I've ridden it at night, I've ridden it in the rain, all sorts of different conditions, so I'll take you through that. I'll then take you through some practical points about owning the motorcycle, some stuff that people have asked me, and then at the end of the video we'll go through all the pros and cons, the lessons I've learnt on the bike since I've been riding it. So if you're interested in the MT-09, stick around, stay tuned, let's get on with it. Let's do a little bit of riding in town, shall we, and see what the MT-09 is like in the urban environment. My suspicions are it's going to be absolutely fine. It's nice and light and nimble, so you can nip through traffic when there's sufficient gap. Not much of a gap there, to be fair. Sitting nice and high up on the bike, so that hopefully, come on lady, thank you. Hopefully traffic can see you and you can sort of plot your route through it nicely. Nice smooth bit of tarmac through High Wycombe for a change. I think as a commuter the MT-09 would be absolutely fabulous. Chance to nip past the learner here. Try not to frighten them too much. And at slow speeds through traffic, the fuelling seems absolutely fine as well. In these Euro 5 emissions strangled times, the throttle isn't jerky at all. I suppose the only thing I would say is the exhaust on the MT-09 as standard is pretty quiet, which actually I quite like. But if you're one of these people that subscribes to the loud pipe saves lives thing, which I'm not by the way, but certainly in town, when you have buildings and stuff with sound reflecting off, sometimes a loud exhaust can be useful. You don't get that effect with the MT-09, but in terms of its lightness, its agility, its slow speed handling and stuff, riding through town, no issue at all. Okay, so I wanted to show you what the MT-09 is like riding at night on this video. But before we get to night time, let me just show you what the lights look like during the day. So from the side look, this is the running light. It makes the front look very Iron Man-esque. I think it looks great. The main headlights, however, are these projector beams that sit here. Look, this is the sort of running light, if you like, the dip beam. Looks pretty flipping bright from where I'm sat. And then if you pull this forward, then we bring on the full beam and then get both of them on. Bit annoying that you only get the one light when it's you know, when it's in dip. I like it, I'd prefer it if it was both lights. But anyway, there we go, that's what the bikes look like in daylight. Let's, by the magic of YouTube, switch to night time. Okay, so welcome to night time on the bike then. Let's see how the MT-09 performs in darkness. It's that time of year when it doesn't get completely dark at night, and I'm not entirely sure how the Osmo Action 4 camera is going to deal with night time. I've not done one of these night reviews with this camera yet, but anyway, let's see how it goes. I'm pretty sure you won't be seeing what I'm seeing though. That would be remarkable if you are. Anyway, what I can do is tell you what I'm seeing, and that is a thin strip of light ahead using the dipped headlights, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's given it's just that tiny one projector light on dip, it's throwing out a lot of light. So I'm approving of the dipped headlights. Right, as we come down this bit of lane, let's put her onto full beam. There we go, that's full beam, and it does throw out more light again. Don't know if you can see it or not, but it's throwing way into the distance now. If anything, it's set a little bit too high, but it's good light. It's that nice clear LED light. It's almost got a bit of a blue tinge to it. So yeah, those little projector lights actually are very, very good. The only other thing to notice at night is that the switchgear isn't lit on the bike. So few bikes are lit these days, so you have to obviously use muscle memory to learn where the switches and so on are. And then the other thing is the TFT as well. As you can see, it's gone into night mode, so it's on a dark background now. And it's not too glary. And there's nothing else about the bike that's glary either, I'm glad to say. So I think overall, as a sort of a night riding proposition, MT-09 is pretty good. Those headlights work really well. Let's go back down to dip. There you go. Actually, it might be a little bit thin, that light. I would like to see a bit more light than that. So in fact, I'm going to give it sort of a thumbs half up for night time. I'm not convinced that's the best lot I've ever seen. So could you go on tour on the MT-09? Well, of course, you could go on tour in beautiful countryside on any motorcycle, couldn't you? But it's not just about chucking it around the twists when you get to where you want to go, which this bike is absolutely fantastic at. But of course, you've got to get to where you want to go. So what would it be like, you know, on motorways and so on to get to your trip? Well, I think you'll be alright. You've got cruise control, so that helps out on the motorway. You are, of course, in the wind blast the whole time, although it is nice clean air. But I think long journeys on it could be a little bit tiresome. And then, of course, you've got the luggage situation to cure. You'd have to wear a rucksack and or strap a bag to the back of the bike. So I guess it's a touring machine. Not ideal, but doable. Certainly fun when you get to where you're going. One thing we've had no lack of this year is rain to ride in. My goodness me, we have had one wet spring in this country. It's been horrible, and today is no exception. As you can see, it's pretty flipping wet and grungy on the roads. So what is the new MT-09 like in the wet stuff then? Well, I'd have to say pretty good actually. It's festooned with electronic rider aids, this. Things like lean angle sensitive ABS and traction control mean that it's got you covered from a technology point of view, and indeed of course it's got riding modes, and I've got this in rain riding mode at the moment, as you might be able to see. So that just backs off some of the throttle response, maximises traction and ABS response, that sort of thing. So from a technology point of view, the bike 100% has got you covered. You're not going to get any more technology that can help you in wet weather than this thing has. This one even has a slide control, which I guess would come into effect in the wet weather. I don't intend to test it now, but there we go. Then when physics takes over, well, then you're relying on your tyres, and this comes with Bridgestone Battle Axe tyres fitted. I don't know much about them actually, and OEM tyres are never necessarily that good. Often bike manufacturers get special batches of tyres made that come with OEM bikes, and they're not actually the same levels of grip and specification as when you buy them aftermarket, as it were. So it's difficult to comment. All I can say is I've been riding around for the last half an hour or so in this damp weather. I've not had any squeaky bum moments. Then I haven't been going mad on the bike either. I'm riding appropriately, as indeed you should, because you know, regardless of how many riding aids a bike has got, physics at some point will take over. So ride sensibly anyway. But as far as the state of the art is concerned at the moment, this bike has you covered for riding in the wet. So it's a thumbs up from me on that one.
Alright, let's talk practical matters then as far as owning the MT-09 is concerned. Starting off with pumping the tyres. What's it going to be like with this? Have they made it easy for us? Well, sadly, no they haven't. Look, they put the old straight through valves on, so you're going to have to get your hand in there. At the front, it's same story, big old disc on here, straight through valve, so you can either buy yourself a right angle one or just fight your way in there. So a bit of a thumbs down to Yamaha for not making those right angle valves. Next up, people often ask about lubing the chain on the bike. Is that going to be easy? Well, on the MT-09, not particularly, because there isn't a centre stand, so you're going to have to put it on some ABBA stands or some paddock stands, something like that. This chain, I'm glad to say, doesn't need any oiling because it's a brand new bike. Next on matters practical, how do you check the oil? Is it a dipstick or a sight glass? Well, I'm glad to say on the Yamaha, it is a little sight glass just tucked in down here. Right, next, what's under the seat here? Let's take a look, shall we? Stand by. There we go, and the answer is not an awful lot. There's a bit of space there for maybe some tools or something, or your keys, or maybe a sandwich or a lamb chops type macadamia, but other than that, not an awful lot of room for storage behind there, but there is some. People often ask, what are the OEM tyres? Well, in this case, on this particular bike, these have got Bridgestone Battle Axe Hypersports fitted. Don't know anything about them, so but they seem all right. Somebody asked me in a comment, how wide are the handlebars out to the mirrors? So if I do tip to tip, I can tell you they are 84 centimetres or 33 inches tip to tip. Handlebars tip to tip, 81 centimetres or 32 inches. Now, I often get asked about whether I use the connectivity app on motorcycles, and in this case I didn't, but it's not without trying. I downloaded a couple of apps, the Yamaha Connected Ride, I downloaded a Garmin thing that it asked me to download, and a Link app, but I couldn't get any of them to work and talk to the bike. Now, that is entirely my fault. I don't have a manual with this bike. I probably could have downloaded one online somewhere, but didn't have the time and frankly couldn't be asked to do so. So I never managed to get the connectivity on this to work. I'm not particularly interested in Bluetooth and all that sort of thing, but I must say I've seen the navigation app work on here before, and it fills the whole bottom of that screen with a map, and it's pretty good actually. So it's probably worth persevering with the connectivity app if you want your navigation on the phone. It looks pretty good on this.
So you join me on the M4 motorway, cruise control engaged, 70 miles an hour, which is the top speed we can legally do on the motorway here in the UK, and I'm heading in the direction of Slough. Don't let me hear you say that I never take you to exotic locations on the Missenden Flyer. So what's the bike like on higher speed roads then, motorways, that sort of thing? Well, pretty good. I mean, you have got this cruise control, so if you're in a non-traffic situation, you can leave that engaged and you know, pile off the miles, no problem at all. So cruise control, definite plus on longer stretches. In terms of power on the bike, well, you've got plenty for cheeky overtakes, even when you're going at kind of top speed, so there's no lack of power. Past this white van. Then I suppose the other thing to consider on the motorway is what's it like from a wind protection point of view. Well, not bad. This big new tank does quite a good job of protecting your lower half of your body. And in terms of the wind blast coming at me, it is of course a naked bike, so I'm in the full airflow here. But it's nice and clean air, it's not dirty and turbulent. So yeah, I'm not finding I'm having to hang on really hard or anything like that. But yeah, no problem at all on faster roads. I can see no reason at all why you wouldn't want to take this on a motorway. If you're off on tour or whatever and you've got to do some stints on motorway to cover some miles, the MT-09, absolutely fine. Or indeed, if your route to work takes you on a motorway, then yeah, no problem, no bother at all. Alright, none of my in-depth reviews would be complete without a lugging about test, where I ride to the local train station and simulate what it's like moving this bike around on your driveway, in and out of your garage, that sort of thing. And also gives me a little chance to check what the steering lock's like. So let's come up here, find some empty spaces, see what this one's like. Now, it's a pretty light bike this, so I'm expecting it to be a piece of cake to move around. In fact, let's face it, I've been moving it around the last couple of weeks. I know it's a piece of cake, but let's see what it's like from a turning circle point of view. Right, in the middle of this parking space here, find neutral, which is nice and easy. Stand is easy to get down to. Let's turn her off. Okay, first thing is to notice no sort of grip on the back to grab hold of. No big deal, just an observation. And then getting her off the side stand, absolute piece of cake. I think it weighs 193 kilograms wet, something like that. If I'm wrong, I'll put the right figure on the screen, but very light bike anyway, no problem to lift up. And then coming around, putting her onto full lock, let's see what the turning circle's like. Actually, it's a little bit wider than I was expecting, the turning circle. It's not terrible, but I thought it would be really tight for some reason. So that was the middle of that space to the edge of that one. So I've done this test on lots of bikes. That would put it in one of the wider turning circles of the bikes that I've done that with. So that's interesting. So slightly wider turning circle than I expected, but very, very easy to live with, even for a weakling like me with dodgy shoulders. Very easy to get off the side stand. Piece of cake, this one.
Right, at the start of the video I said I would take you through all the lessons I've learnt, the pros and cons on the bike. Well, as you would expect, I've made a comprehensive list of those. Let's go through them now, starting with the negatives. Now, the first thing I've said here is handlebar cable ties. If we come down here, this is something I'm not too keen on. You've got these rubbery things here, look, that keep all the cables in check. And also this cable here is all wound round with like insulation tape. I just think it looks a bit cheap and nasty. I'd prefer it if they'd taken the time to actually hide those in the handlebars, but I get the bike is built to a price. Right, next up, something I didn't like using the bike day to day is it's pretty awkward to lock the handlebars. Now, this is you know, I'm kind of clashing at straws here to find negative things about the bike because I really do like this bike. But to get these handlebars to lock, if you put them the full way over and then try and move the key to lock, it just doesn't want to go. You have to move them, I'll try and do it with my hip, you have to move them out quite a bit There you go, and now you can lock it, and now they're locked. But yeah, it's a bit of a faff and takes a bit of getting used to. So yeah, minor point, but locking the handlebars a bit awkward on the MT-09. Right, next on my negatives list, I've said here, TFT, not the best ever, not widescreen. Now actually, the TFT isn't too bad on here, but what I don't like about it is the fact that it's quite a big unit, but the picture doesn't extend all the way out. There's this big black bar all the way around it. Now you do have your idiot lights all the way around here, so I understand why they need gaps at the side, but the top and bottom, maybe it would be nicer if that was just a bit thinner, but it's a personal thing. Not a huge fan of the TFT. It's all right, but it's not up there with, say, a BMW. Next on my dislikes list is this seat. After about an hour on the bike, I have found that it's become quite uncomfortable. It's quite hard, it's quite roomy, but after about an hour, I start to want to get off. But, that's kind of fine. Most of the times, if I'm out on tour or whatever, I want to get off the bike after an hour anyway. Next up, and I've had to switch the bike on to show you this, is I don't like the fact that the headlights, when you're in running mode, you just get the one light on, you don't get both lights. Again, small point, but it's just something that annoys me. Right, I better turn it off before I kill myself. Oh, that's better. And while we're talking about the lights, as you will have seen in the night section, when they're on dip, they sort of send out a strip of light, and actually it did show up on the camera okay. And although I thought initially it was okay, actually I'm not that sure that's a great thing on these lights. So the lights on here, not as good as I'd hoped. Overall, I find the bike is quite good looking, but something I don't like is the sort of lack of exhaust. It's got this box under here, and the exhaust exits out the bottom there, but that actual box looks a bit ugly. I would have preferred a nice end can on the bike. And then last and least on my negatives list, this here indicator button. When I did the initial ride, I said it was quite chunky and easy to use with gloves. It is, but actually, I still find it a bit odd to use. You have to kind of press it to indicate and press it again to cancel. And the same with that side. It's just got on my nerves a little bit, actually. It's a little bit fiddly, I've decided. So, yeah, I'll take it back what I said on the first ride review. I don't like that new chunky indicator button. Alright, so much for all the whinging then, on to the positives on this bike. Now I would say that the negatives that I've listed, I was clutching at straws trying to find things, they're all kind of minor niggles, whereas the positives on here are things that are fundamental about bikes. So although there's less on the positive lists, these are all way more important as far as I'm concerned. So the first thing on the positive list is this brilliant CP3 engine. Triple cylinder, is absolutely a hooligan machine. It puts out, I think it's about 120 horsepower, something like that, 117 PS, is just a brilliant, brilliant road engine. It's such a lot of fun. It sounds great. It goes great. I love the engine. That's number one on the positives list. Next on the positives list is the fact that this bike is just easy to live with. It's lightweight to pick up off the stand. You can move it around your garage easily. It's just a nice thing to own. And, other than that steering lock issue, it's just easy to get along with. I love it. Right, next on my positives list is the sound that this bike makes. It being a triple cylinder, I love the triple cylinder whine that this has in abundance. It reminds me of a Triumph, sorry Yamaha, but I love that sound. They've done a great job on the noise on this. And on top of that, what they've done is to make the most of the induction noise, they've put these like grills on here. So as you're sat on the bike and giving it the beans, the sound comes up at you, the rider, so you can fully enjoy the visceral feeling of being on this motorcycle. I love that they've actually put some effort into tuning the sound on this bike and made it fun for us riders. Next on the positive list, and this is fundamental, is the value, the price of this bike. It comes in at the moment, at time of recording, £10,106, and you get an awful lot of electronics on this bike. You get a quick shifter as standard, you get cruise control as standard, and as I say, a very comprehensive electronics suite. You cannot argue with the value of this motorcycle. It's brilliant. And the last thing I've noticed on my positives list, and this is the most important thing about owning a motorcycle, it's just darn fun. It puts a grin on your face. Whenever you ride on this, you have a laugh. It's a brilliant motorcycle. If you just want to poodle along the lanes, it's absolutely fine. If you want to ride it like a hooligan, and it does encourage you to do that, it absolutely lets you do it. It's a brilliant real-world, on-the-road bike. Great fun. I absolutely love it.
So there we have it. That's my in-depth review of the Yamaha MT-09 for 2024. An absolutely cracking bike. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you've not done so before, well hey, if you've not done so already, do consider hitting that subscribe button. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.
Hey kids, we're the Missenden Flyers.